Hello, everybody, and a very good evening on this slightly spring-like Monday evening. Winter's not letting go of Hampshire quite yet. We had hailstones today the size of peas, which were a real joy. But we're getting there. So it's really, really good of you to join us this Monday evening. Just a couple of admin points, which are that session's being recorded, and we will then email you all that session. The session afterwards. If you've got any queries, you've got any questions, please use either the chat or the Q&A function, which will be in the boxes at the top of your screen, or should be. And I will endeavour during the webinar to stay on top of those and drop those questions in. If we don't get a chance to answer your questions before the end, we'll come back to you on email afterwards. So a couple of introductions. First of all, Nick Plunkett from Colour Start and Trica Care, who I'm sure needs no introduction because I'm sure all of you know about Colour Start's product. And if you don't, hopefully by the end of this evening's session, you'll understand a lot more about it. And hopefully we'll have busted some of those myths that may well be around that product. And also Adam Haste from Sentio Insurance, who is one of life's good guys. Not that Nick isn't, because Nick is, absolutely, but Adam is one of life's good guys when it comes to insurance, absolutely. And we absolutely recommend both Adam's insurance services and Nick with Colour Start and their services from the Hair Barber Council. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Gareth Pennell. I'm the registrar of the Hair Barber Council. And as I normally do at the beginning of these webinars, I just have a minute, 30 seconds to a minute, just giving you a quick update as to what we've been doing since the last webinar. And it's been a really busy time for the Hair and Barber Council. And that's kind of fundamentally been around two things. So firstly, our continuing lobbying for mandatory regulation, which is our holy grail, because we believe that it would actually help to solve a lot of the problems that the industry face, whether that is around taxation, whether that's around disguised employment, whether that is around illegal employment in some sectors like the barbering that we all know so much about. So we've been having lots of meetings around that. We've also had lots of meetings. Budget feels like a long time ago, I know, but we've had a lot of meetings. We met with the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, to discuss VAT, to discuss other taxation, other support that the hairdressing sector so desperately needs, whether that's for apprentices, because of course we all know the apprentice minimum wage went up by 21% at the beginning of this month, which is, you know, a burden that many salons are finding that they cannot continue to support. And that's a tragedy, not only for the individuals who may lose their jobs and their training, but also bigger picture for our sector as a whole, because in 5 years, who are going to be the next set of salon owners? And just in time, Colette has arrived. Hello Colette.
So good evening, everybody.
I'm sure you'll know Colette, but if you don't, Colette is the Vice Chair, Hair and Barber Council, and also the founder of Salon Owners United, and is a very welcome contributor to this session. So without further ado, I'm going to press a couple of buttons, share my screen, and we'll start cracking on with this evening's webinar, which is the importance of testing before colour. So just bear with me. Hopefully I'll share the right screen. So with luck, you should now see the screen which says the importance of testing before colour. Adam, Nick, Colette, is that right? Can you see that?
Yep.
Yes,
Excellent.
we can, Gareth. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Super important topic. And before we get into the bones of this, about the whys and the wherefores and why this happened, we will send all those who participated, who watched this webinar, continual professional development certificate. I've got your email addresses from the registration. So if your email address is different, where you'd like the certificate sending to, Please add your details in the chat, and we will send the certificate there. If there's anybody else who watches this post event, just drop me an email with your details on, and we can produce a certificate for you too. Okay, our objectives this evening. So first off, to inform you guys as hair professionals about the changes to testing guidance, why these were made, and how they'll help you run your colour business better. And really importantly, as part of that, is to identify the risks of not following these best practice guidelines. And as I say, discuss and share ways to allow you to build a compliant colour business. Now, a lot of people might say exactly this. Why was the change needed? Why was this something that not just the Hair Barber Council felt was important, but the industry as a whole felt was needed? And there's a few really simple points here. So first off, really low compliance. And by compliance, I mean people, hair professionals, carrying out an appropriate and correct test in the correct way. And there's loads of confusion over what was and was not okay. So we needed an evidence-based professional solution. So evidence-based, this is taken from things like the medical profession, an area that Nick has got a huge amount of experience in, and that you don't just set out saying, this is what I want to achieve, let me find a way to do that, is that you build a case to prove why what you want is right and can stand up to scrutiny. And that's a really, really important point. Insurance. So you can see why we got Adam here as well. Change was needed because simply hair professionals, whether they're working in salon or whether they're working freelance, were finding that they were not insured because they were not completing colour testing correctly. And, you know, there's some fairly substantial risks there to us as individuals if we're not insured. And we'll talk a little bit later about business structure and formation, but, you know, making sure you've got appropriate insurance is really, really important. And then lastly, the explosion post-COVID of the posting of pots of colour for home testing. You know, that for us was something that really needed to be looked into because it hadn't really been done a great deal before. It was maybe a little bit under the radar, but you know, post lockdowns, the posting of pots for home testing has just gone through the roof. And we needed to understand whether that was okay or not. And that links back to the evidence-based professional solution there. So hopefully everybody would understand why change was needed. Remove the confusion. Provide you with cover. Okay, so the risks. We'll just look at the risks here about why should we test? Because, you know, we are very aware that often hair professionals don't. And they might not for various reasons. And I'm hoping that come the end of this webinar, with everything that we've all got to say, that by the end of this webinar, you'll have agreed that actually testing is something that helps benefit your business it helps protect you as a hair professional, and it helps protect your customer, the consumer. So why should we test and do so correctly? So consumer safety. And I don't know whether you want to jump in here at all, Adam, because of course the next point is insurance risk. But as hair professionals, we have a duty of care.
Yep.
To protect, to the best of our ability, the people that come to see us.
Yeah, so under the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, I believe it is, but I think it was updated in 2011. You as a hair professional have a duty of care to your consumer, and that ultimately means that, and I think it specifically states that you must undertake appropriate testing. If you are found to not have undertaken appropriate testing, then you can be prosecuted. And we've actually uncovered there are some cases where hair professionals have been prosecuted. And when we're talking about an injury, that can be just a fine. When I say just a fine, we're talking tens of thousands of pounds, which how many businesses or hair professionals can sustain that? Or in more severe cases, you could be looking at criminal prosecution, because if you are putting somebody at severe risk, I mean, we are aware that there has been deaths as a result of allergic reaction to hair dye. Not in the UK, may I point out, but there has been, and we've had that confirmed to us. So do you want to put yourself in a position as a hair professional where you cannot demonstrate effectively, and this is where it goes back to that evidence-based solution, that you haven't taken the appropriate testing? And in the event of an insurance claim being made, what will generally happen is the claimant solicitor will first and foremost go, where's evidence of the patch test? Regardless of anything else, because it acts as a barometer as to the professionality of the hair professional. Because if they're doing that bit correctly, they're more likely to be doing other aspects correctly. So it is a bit of a buzz when it comes to no win, no fee solicitors. So the other point here, more on the insurance side, is a lot of policies, if you do not adhere to what they state you should be doing in terms of patch testing, then your insurance policy won't cover you. They specifically state they won't cover you. There is one slight outlier out there, which is Colour Start, but I'll let Nick fill you in on that bit a little bit later when it comes around to his segment.
So just on there, Adam, we've got a question here, and I think it's a really important question and something we've come across quite a lot, and thanks for explaining that. So with regards to the insurance or criminal risk, would this be to the salon and the individual stylist? And we get asked this a lot, don't we, Adam? And it's one of the areas that we've had to really delve into. As Adam said, give me a ballpark, Adam. How many insurers are there out there in the insurance industry, and how many different variations of policy wordings are there?
You're talking hundreds, if not thousands, if you're looking at all the different variations that they have.
Exactly. So with regards to the would this be to the salon and the individual stylist? Well, it's the professional who didn't actually apply the skin test. And this is where it gets quite difficult, because this is why we always ask that people are quite clear on, obviously what we're talking about here. I presume we're talking about whether there's an employed salon. If there's an employed salon, it'll be down to the salon because they will come under their insurance. And obviously, in some cases, the insurance can be kind of, how can I put it, Adam? It's not that clear, is it, when regards to rent-a-chair, co-working spaces and things like that. They are supposed to carry their own insurance and own professional indemnity and treatment at risk. But Adam can help more on that. And I would suggest anybody who needs help to discuss a particular policy, just to get it across to Adam.
Okay, so in terms of who is the one at risk from the hair professional side of things, generally they would go for the responsible person within the business.
Yeah.
So if it's a bigger organisation, they would go for the responsible persons, and then it would be a case of the responsible persons within that business having to demonstrate that they've provided sufficient and adequate training and policing, that they're ensuring testing is being done as it should be being done. And then if you've got an individual that is continually not testing as they should be, you're taking proactive approaches towards that. And then if it turns out that you as the responsible person has done everything that is practical and reasonable on your side, then you will generally find they will go for the individual stylist. That's it in very, very simplistic terms.
But it's fair to say that each case would be based on its unique merits, wouldn't it, Adam? And that's the key thing. So if anybody's unsure about what's in the policy, I think it's important to kind of, touch base with Adam or one of us.
I agree, Colette and Adam, and thank you, Paula, also for adding a really valid comment that, in the different regions, there are slightly different legal situations and a slightly different propensity to claim, perhaps. And, Paula makes a really good point, which is in Northern Ireland, actually claims are becoming more and more common, and the salons are being held liable. And this is why we keep coming back to it. You've got to make sure you're doing the right thing in the right way. You document it, but then you also, worst case, have appropriate insurance in place. So I think we've covered off the other 2 points there, which is criminal risk and also the financial business risk to you as individuals or salon owners. Okay, so let's shoot down a couple of myths here, which is always fun. So if you guys have got any other myths around colour testing that we've missed out here in our next few points, share them and we'll chat them through, because it's really important that we understand what is and what is not okay. So firstly, allergy to hair colour is so rare, we don't need to test. Yeah, wow. I mean, we hear this all the time, and it always makes my blood go cold, because we are the hair professionals. It is for us to do what is right, and you have whatever the percentage chance is of a reaction. Is that something that you would be willing to take?
I think it goes beyond that as well. I believe because of some of the chemicals within permanent hair dye, they even have to be marked up or labelled up that there's a possibility of an allergic reaction. They have to be marked up that way by law. So as a professional using a professional product that carries that warning, it demonstrates that there should be some form of testing in place. So it goes that little bit further.
Yeah, agreed, Adam. What nobody wants is what's described as a PRET moment. And so a PRET moment, for those that haven't heard that phrase before, is about a really unfortunate young girl who bought a PRET sandwich at Gatwick Airport, and it wasn't labelled appropriately, and she had a reaction whilst on board a flight to the south of France, and she died in the air. And that single death has led to a huge amount of change within the prepared and fast food industries. You know, that has led to every now time you sit down in a pub and you order food,
And
a
it's
waiter or
also,
waitress will say any allergies.
yeah, and also, Gareth, it's also put the wider commercial market on alert, especially with us, because the duty of care there was rested with Pret, didn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, and they obviously got their hands severely burnt over that, relevant fines and everything else, and short of corporate manslaughter. So, I think that alone should be an indicator to us all that, you know, playing Russian roulette, as I would put it, it's not worth the risk. Because it only has to take that one event, that one person who may have, you know, developed a sensitivity, or, you know, for whatever else issue, have a reactive immune system for whatever reason, you know, and I just don't think it's worth the risk for anybody.
I absolutely agree, Colette. Thanks, Creative H, who posed the question: do all insurance companies allow you to use colour start? And I think probably that's something we're going to ask Nick to cover in a bit when Nick talks about colour start in a bit more detail, if that's okay. Okay, so next myth: very few hairdressers test for colour allergy properly. So the myth is, therefore I don't have to, because no one else is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, move on.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all I can say about that one.
And there are, and if I can come in at this point, Gareth,
Yeah,
from
please
our
do.
perspective, there are many salons and hairdressers, freelance and all sorts of business types that are testing. And so this idea and this concept that there's a silo of people that we're sort of all together in the non-compliance factor, that's incorrect. There are many, many, many very successful colour businesses out there that have a thriving workforce and very loyal clients that are fully compliant to their best practice colour services.
Thanks, Nick. I think that's a really good point. Well made, and that we're not saying here that everybody doesn't comply. Not at all. Okay, so moving on, we have a written policy. That's enough, even if we don't follow it. So this would be particularly as a salon owner with employed people, or a salon where you've got self-employed folk, you've got a very good written policy. You've thought it through. It states what will and won't happen when, and you think you're covered, even if you don't follow it. Adam, are you covered if you have a written policy and you don't follow it?
If you're not following it through, no.
No, it's just a piece of paper, isn't it, Adam? It's not, you know, and that's
Completely.
the point.
If you're not following it through, it's not evidenced.
No.
Absolutely, and you could extend that into anything about employment contracts. It might be written down. If you don't do it, you're not covered. So
Yeah.
it's the same principle. This next one's really important, which is the myth that clients don't value the allergy alert test. Or you might say clients don't want to be bothered. They don't value the time. They won't put the time into the test. And this is not the experience of those that have made testing an absolutely integral part of their colour business.
This is the classic line of, I have my hair done all the time. I've had my hair coloured for years. I've never had a reaction before, so I don't need to be tested.
And not just that, I think as well, Adam, I think, you know, when people are forced and clients say, oh, just don't test me, just I'll sign something.
And just to answer that classic line first, PPD and its various derivatives, they're a sensitizer. So the more you're having your hair coloured over the years, the more likely you are to develop an allergy. So the fact that you've been having your hair coloured for years means testing is all the more important, if anything, as daft as that sounds, for that client. And it's that consumer not understanding the importance of the testing, and this is where, as professionals, we need to educate the consumer.
Same as if you have
Absolutely.
sorry, Gareth. I was going to say, same as you're going for an operation, and the surgeon will actually tell you all the risks. And it's the onus on them as a professional to actually, actually go through that with you, as it is with us as professionals. We have to tell the client, we do this because of X, Y, Z, and obviously it's our policy and we do it. And that's it, basically.
So really good point raised by Chris Guy, who many of you will know is one of our regular guests on the webinar. So Chris is a partner at RLK